Victoria Matthews stared at the email on her screen, her hands trembling with a mixture of rage and disbelief. After 5 years of building the marketing department at Pinnacle Solutions from the ground up, her boss, Marcus Rothwell, had just sent a company-wide message announcing her temporary reassignment to make room for his nephew's promotion. "You're replaceable, Victoria," Marcus had said during their private meeting that morning, his cold gray eyes never leaving his computer screen. "Anyone can do what you do. My nephew needs the experience, and frankly, the company needs fresh blood in leadership." Victoria had built the most successful marketing campaigns in the company's history. Under her guidance, the team had increased revenue by 300% over 3 years. She had mentored 12 junior employees, created innovative strategies that competitors tried desperately to replicate, and worked countless overtime hours to ensure every project exceeded expectations. But Marcus Rothwell saw none of that. To him, she was just another employee, expendable, forgettable, replaceable. The marketing team gathered around Victoria's desk as word spread through the office. James Rodriguez, her deputy director, shook his head in disgust. "This is absolutely insane, Vic. You built this department." "We all know who really runs marketing here," added Rebecca Turner, the senior campaign manager. "Without you, this place would collapse within a month." Thomas Kim, the data analyst whose career Victoria had personally salvaged after a major mistake, looked ready to march into Marcus's office. "This is corporate politics at its worst. Your results speak for themselves." Priya Singh, the creative director, crossed her arms defiantly. "If they think they can just shuffle you around like a pawn, they're about to learn how wrong they are." Victoria felt a warmth spreading through her chest as she looked at her team, her work family. These weren't just colleagues, they were people she had invested in, believed in, and fought for when the company wanted to cut budgets or eliminate positions. "What are you going to do?" James asked quietly. Victoria straightened her shoulders, her mind already racing with possibilities. She thought about the headhunter who had called last month, offering her a position with their biggest competitor. She thought about the clients who had specifically requested to work with her team. She thought about Marcus's son Daniel, who had always been kind to her, who had even asked her out for coffee several times. Invitations she had politely declined due to professional boundaries. Maybe it was time to reconsider those boundaries. Maybe it was time to show Marcus Rothwell exactly how replaceable she wasn't. "I'm going to make a few phone calls," Victoria said, her voice steady and determined. "And Marcus is going to learn that some mistakes can't be undone." 3 days after her humiliation, Victoria found herself sitting across from Daniel Rothwell at a small cafe downtown. Unlike his father's harsh features and calculating demeanor, Daniel possessed warm brown eyes and an easy smile that had always made her feel comfortable during their brief office interactions. "I can't believe he said that to you," Daniel said, stirring his coffee with obvious agitation. "I've seen what you've built at Pinnacle. My father may not appreciate talent, but I do." Victoria studied the man before her. At 28, Daniel was only 2 years younger than she was, but he carried himself with a maturity that his father lacked. As the head of business development at a competing firm, he had built his own reputation without trading on the Rothwell name. "I have to ask," Victoria said carefully. "Why did you reach out to me? This could complicate things with your father." Daniel leaned back in his chair, a bitter laugh escaping his lips. "My relationship with my father has been complicated for years. He wanted me to join Pinnacle right out of college, expected me to take an executive position I hadn't earned. When I refused and went to work for Meridian Industries instead, he called me ungrateful and naive." "I had no idea," Victoria murmured. "He believes everything should be handed to people based on family connections rather than merit. It's exactly the opposite of how I want to run a business." Daniel's eyes met hers. "When I heard what he did to you, I realized we might have more in common than I thought." Victoria felt a flutter in her stomach that had nothing to do with career ambitions. What exactly are you proposing? Meridian Industries is expanding. We're looking for a head of marketing who can build a department from scratch. Someone with vision, experience, and the ability to lead a team. Daniel paused, his expression becoming more serious. Someone who could bring proven talent with them. You're talking about poaching my entire team. I'm talking about offering opportunities to people who deserve them. Your team's loyalty to you is legendary in our industry. They're wasted at Pinnacle under my father's leadership. Victoria's mind raced. The offer was tempting, more than tempting. It was perfect revenge served with a side of career advancement. But there was something else happening here. Something in the way Daniel looked at her that made her pulse quicken. There's something else, Daniel said, his voice dropping lower. I know this might be inappropriate timing, but I need to be honest. I've admired you for a long time, Victoria. Not just professionally, but personally. I've wanted to ask you out properly for months, but the situation with my father made it complicated. Victoria felt her cheeks warm. And now? Now I'm hoping that maybe we can kill two birds with one stone. Get revenge on my father's arrogance while exploring what might happen between us. Daniel's smile was both charming and mischievous. What? Do you say, Victoria Matthews, ready to show Marcus Rothwell what replaceable really means? Victoria extended her hand across the table. Let's do it. The following Monday morning arrived with deceptive calm at Pinnacle Solutions. Marcus Rothwell sat in his corner office reviewing quarterly reports and feeling satisfied with his recent personnel decisions. His nephew Bradley had already begun implementing improvements to the marketing department, though Marcus hadn't bothered to review the details. His self-satisfaction was interrupted by his assistant's frantic knock. Mr. Rothwell, Jennifer stammered, "We have a situation. Victoria Matthews and her entire marketing team have submitted their resignations, all of them, simultaneously." Marcus's coffee cup froze halfway to his lips. What do you mean, all of them? James Rodriguez, Rebecca Turner, Thomas Kim, Priya Singh, and 4 junior associates. Every single person from marketing except Bradley. They're cleaning out their desks right now. Marcus bolted from his chair and strode toward the marketing department, Jennifer hurrying behind him. The scene that greeted him was surreal. 8 employees methodically packing personal items while maintaining perfectly professional demeanor. "Victoria!" Marcus called out, his voice strained. "What is the meaning of this?" Victoria looked up from her box of awards and personal photos, her expression serene. "I'm being replaced, remember? I figured I'd make it easier for you by finding my own replacement job. You can't all just leave. You have contracts, obligations. At-will employment works both ways, Marcus," James interjected smoothly. "We've all fulfilled our 2-week notice requirements as outlined in our contracts." Marcus's face began turning red. "This is sabotage, corporate espionage. I'll sue every one of you." "For what?" Rebecca asked innocently. "Taking jobs that better? Appreciate our skills? There's nothing in our contracts that prevents us from working for competitors." Thomas looked up from his computer, where he was transferring his personal files to a flash drive. "All company property and confidential information remains with Pinnacle, of course. We're professionals." Marcus turned desperately to Priya. "You can't possibly think you'll be better off somewhere else. I gave you your first break in this industry." "Actually," Priya replied, not looking up from packing her design awards, "Victoria gave me my first break. You just signed the paperwork. It's the..." Rest of the office had gathered to watch the spectacle. Employees from other departments whispered among themselves, some looking admiring, others nervous about their own job security. "Where are you all going?" Marcus demanded. Victoria stood, shouldering her laptop bag. "Meridian Industries has offered us positions that recognize our worth. Amazing what happens when you work for someone who values talent over nepotism." "Meridian?" Marcus sputtered. "That's Daniel's company. My son put you up to this." "Your son offered us opportunities," Victoria corrected. "We made our own decisions." As the team walked toward the elevators, Marcus called out desperately, "Victoria, be reasonable. We can discuss a raise, a better title." Victoria turned back one final time, her smile cold and satisfied. "I'm sorry, Marcus, but I'm afraid you'll have to replace me. Oh, wait. You already said I was replaceable, didn't you? I'm sure Bradley will do just fine." The elevator doors closed on Marcus Rothwell's stunned face, and the sound of his nephew, Bradley, nervously asking, "Uncle Marcus, what exactly does the marketing department do?" By lunchtime, news of the mass resignation had spread throughout the building, and Marcus was fielding panicked calls from clients asking about their campaigns. Victoria. Matthews had just delivered the most elegant professional revenge in corporate history. 6 months later, Victoria stood before the floor-to-ceiling windows of her new corner office at Meridian Industries, watching the city bustle below. The view was spectacular, but not as spectacular as the results her team had achieved since joining the company. "Admiring your kingdom?" Daniel's voice came from the doorway, warm with affection and pride. Victoria turned, her heart doing that familiar skip it had been doing every time she saw him for the past 4 months. Just thinking about how much has changed. Daniel entered, closing the door behind him. What had started as a professional alliance had evolved into something neither of them had expected. Their first official date had been 3 weeks after the team's arrival at Meridian, a quiet dinner that had stretched until midnight as they discovered how much they had in common. "The Morrison campaign results came in," Daniel said, moving to stand beside her. 40% increase in brand recognition, 60% boost in sales. The client is ecstatic." Victoria smiled. "The team deserves all the credit. They're thriving here in ways they never could at Pinnacle." "And what about their fearless leader? Is she thriving?" Victoria turned to face him fully, noting the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled, the way he looked at her like she was the most fascinating person in the world. "She's doing pretty well." Daniel stepped closer, his hands finding her waist. "Well enough to consider making some changes permanent?" Victoria's breath caught. Over the past months, their relationship had deepened beyond professional respect into something real and lasting. They had been careful to maintain boundaries at work, but everyone could see the connection between them. "What kind of changes?" she asked, though her racing heart suggested she already knew. Instead of answering immediately, Daniel reached into his jacket pocket and withdrew a small velvet box. Victoria's hands flew to her mouth as he dropped to one knee right there in her office. "Victoria Matthews," he said, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. "You took a chance on a partnership that started with revenge and turned it into something beautiful. You showed me what it means to build something meaningful with someone who shares your values. Will you marry me?" Victoria stared at the ring, a stunning vintage setting that was absolutely perfect, then at the man who had become her partner in every sense of the word. "Yes," she whispered, then louder, "Yes." As Daniel slipped the ring onto her finger and stood to kiss her, Victoria thought about the journey that had brought them here. What had started as professional humiliation had led to the greatest opportunity of her career and the love of her life. "You know," she said against his lips, "your father is going to be furious." Daniel laughed, spinning her around. "Let him be furious. He called you replaceable, but he was wrong. You're irreplaceable, Victoria, in business and in life." Through the glass walls of her office, Victoria could see her team working diligently, building campaigns that would reshape industries. James caught sight of them embracing and grinned, giving a subtle thumbs up. Victoria had found her happy ending, and the wedding of Victoria Matthews and Daniel Rothwell, was held on a crisp autumn Saturday at an elegant vineyard outside the city. The guest list read like a who's who of the marketing and business development industries, with one glaring exception. Marcus Rothwell had not been invited. Daniel had wrestled with the decision for weeks. Despite their strained relationship, Marcus was still his father, but ultimately, Victoria's happiness and the peace of their wedding day had taken priority. The ceremony was perfect. Victoria walked down the aisle in a dress that made her look like a queen, her face radiant with joy. Her entire Meridian team served as her wedding party, their loyalty and love evident in every smile. Daniel's colleagues from his previous company served as his groomsmen, creating a celebration that truly represented the life they had built together. As they exchanged vows, Victoria thought about the journey that had brought them here. "You once told me I was replaceable," she said, looking directly into Daniel's eyes. "But you've shown me that some connections can never be replicated." Daniel's response brought tears to many eyes. "You taught me that true partnership isn't about family names or inherited positions. It's about choosing to build something beautiful with someone who challenges you to be better every day." The reception was in full swing when Marcus Rothwell appeared. He stood at the entrance to the reception hall, looking older and more haggard than Victoria remembered. His expensive suit couldn't hide the defeat in his posture or the desperation in his eyes. "Dad," Daniel said quietly, approaching his father with Victoria at his side. "I didn't think you'd come." "I wasn't invited," Marcus replied, his voice hoarse. "But I needed to see this. I needed to apologize." The music seemed to quiet, though the band played on. Several guests had noticed the tension and were watching with interest. Marcus turned to Victoria, his eyes filled with something she had never seen from him before: humility. "Victoria, I owe you an apology, a massive, life-changing apology." Victoria remained silent, letting him continue. "Pinnacle Solutions collapsed 3 months after you left," Marcus admitted. "We lost every major client. Bradley had no idea how to handle the accounts you had built. The company filed for bankruptcy last month." Daniel's hand tightened on Victoria's, offering silent support. "But that's not why I'm here," Marcus continued. "I'm here because I realized that I didn't just lose the best employee I ever had. I lost my son's respect, and I nearly lost the chance to see him marry an extraordinary woman." Marcus looked directly at Victoria. "You were never replaceable. You were irreplaceable, and I was too arrogant and stupid to see it. Watching Daniel thrive at Meridian, seeing what you've both built together, I finally understand what real leadership looks like." Victoria studied the broken man before her. This was Marcus Rothwell, the man who had humiliated her, dismissed her contributions, and treated her as disposable. But he was also Daniel's father, and the pain in her husband's eyes told her everything she needed to know about forgiveness. "Thank you for saying that, Marcus," Victoria said finally. "It means more than you know." "I don't expect forgiveness," Marcus said. "I just wanted you both to know that I'm proud of what you've accomplished. And Daniel, I'm proud of the man you've become, despite my failures as a father." Daniel stepped forward, and after a moment's hesitation, embraced his father. "We all make mistakes, Dad. What matters is learning from them." As the evening continued, Victoria reflected on the incredible transformation her life had undergone. She had started this journey seeking revenge against a man who had treated her poorly. Instead, she had found love, built an incredible career, and ultimately discovered that the best revenge was living well. Later, as she and Daniel danced to their first song as husband and wife, Victoria whispered, "So, Mr. Rothwell, any regrets about marrying your father's replaceable employee?" Daniel spun her gently, his eyes sparkling with mischief. "Just one regret, Mrs. Rothwell. I regret that it took his stupidity for me to realize what I'd been missing all along." Victoria laughed, feeling completely and utterly irreplaceable in the arms of the man who truly saw her worth. Sometimes, she thought, the universe had the most beautiful sense of poetic justice, as sweeter than any revenge she could have planned.